So, welcome back to our course on Facebook Groups Made Simple. Today, we get to talk about something that's really important to keep your group going. And we're talking about how to manage your group and how to keep people connected. And so, I want to start off today by talking about setting the tone for your group. And what do I mean by that? This is really an important consideration when creating your Facebook group and when starting your Facebook group. It's what type of a culture do you want to create for your online campus? Do you want to create a tone of where everyone shares and encourages each other? Do you want to create an environment where people can ask some tough questions and there can be healthy debate? Do you want to create a group where people comment on the sermon each week and interact and do book studies together? This really goes back to the purpose of why you created your group in the first place. And so I want to encourage you a little bit to think about that and to think about how you can create and set this tone for your group that will make it sustainable and that'll make it enjoyable. We all know what happens to groups when you don't have any rules. We've seen how social media works when there are no rules, and it quickly devolves into chaos. And so that's really why we want to talk about this, because if we don't have a good idea of what we want our group to accomplish, then we're going to struggle when posts pop up and people will post things that may not be appropriate for your group. So how do we handle that? So let's talk about this a little bit and how we set the tone. First of all, your decision on whether your group is private or public will play into this. If you have a public group where anybody can see the post, anybody can join, it's going to be a little bit different than having a private group where you have to approve people to join, and then you get to choose whether or not to allow everyone to post and post approvals, and we'll talk about that later in this lesson. But just those decisions up front, that some that we've already discussed in this course, will play a part in setting the tone for your group. And so I want to challenge you a little bit just to start thinking about this. And different groups will have different cultures that surround them. So a group for your entire church will be different than a group for just maybe your children's ministry workers or your youth ministry. And so you think about a youth ministry, a group for it's going to be a lot more memes, a lot more funny content, a lot more. It's going to look a lot different maybe than a group that's used for your entire church. Or maybe you have a group just for your leadership team. Again, it's going to be very different. And so again, just start writing out, thinking about the culture you want, the tone you want for your group. Your group rules play a huge part in this, and we've already talked about that. But setting your group rules in advance, that will be the guardrails, so to speak, for your group. And so there'll be times when you kind of veer and you start bumping into those guardrails, and those group rules are what allow you to pull everything back on track. And so if you don't have group rules, it's going to be really tough to remove posts or remove comments because you have nothing to go back on to say, hey, you agreed to this in the first place, or this is not appropriate. Then it becomes, well, I don't think it is, and I think it is. And it's just all a matter of personal preference and personal opinion. But with group rules, you have something you can go back to, something solid. So again, this is just, you need to really think through what you're okay with, what you're going to allow in your group. Some churches may be fine with theological debates and questions. And so those type of debates and questions don't scare you, they don't bother you, and so you want to encourage those type of discussions. Some churches may not be comfortable with that. Some you may want to allow people to ask some really tough questions, and even questions about whether or not they believe in Jesus, and questions that are apologetic in nature or skeptical in nature. And so are you okay with those types of questions? And then, your group rules will establish, again, your guardrails, your boundaries for how people interact with posts that they may disagree with. If you're asking them to be kind and courteous, then we need to show grace to people who maybe have questions or may not be at the same spiritual level as the others in the group. So we have to think about that. There will be people, another big topic is, what about political posts? Are you okay with people making political posts in your group? So, man, these are some tough questions. And after the past few years, we've seen the tension on social media. These are questions you need to prayerfully consider. And I would encourage you to really sit down with the leadership of your church, especially if you're not the lead pastor or depending on your position within the church, to sit down with the leadership team of your church and come to a general consensus about what you're okay with on social media. Again, this is creating culture, creating the culture of your online campus, your online ministry, your online group. And so there's just so many things that play into this. You can pre-approve, you can allow anybody to post, and so in your group that affects the culture. You may want to pre-approve some people, but not all people, and may want to approve their post as they post them. This all plays into your culture. But I want you to think about something. If you're a little scared to open up and allow everyone to post, and you say, I want to approve every single post on the group, then that affects the culture of the group, because people know when they post a question or post something that they're not going to get an immediate response. And so that means they're going to be reluctant to post and share something, especially if it's a critical request, if it's a prayer request, or if it's something that they need immediate answers for. So just all this said, I think setting the tone is really important. And so that's the first thing that I want you to spend some time on. What do you want your group to accomplish? Here's the second thing, is you need to start creating your team. And your team is going to be both admins and moderators. So what is the difference? There's not a lot of difference. Admins obviously have more power, more control in the group. An admin can make anybody else another admin or a moderator. An admin can remove other admins and moderators. The admins can manage all the group settings, and that's something that moderators can't do. They cannot change the group name, the cover photo, privacy settings, things like that. Only an admin can do that. But for everything else, the roles are basically the same. Admins and moderators can approve or deny membership requests. They can approve or deny post in the group if you have on post approval. You can remove post and comments, and both can do that. You can remove and block people from the group, and you can even pin and unpin posts. So really, when it comes down to it, I encourage you to have at least 2 admins on the group. And just for the sole purpose of, if one person is unavailable, if one person gets locked out of their account, if one of your admins gets hacked, you want a backup admin. So I encourage you to have at least 2 admins on the group. And then I encourage you to have a few people that can moderate the group. And these are trusted people. Maybe these are staff people on your church. Maybe these are trusted people in your social media ministry team. But these are people who can that have good discernment. That's really, if you want to ask the one trait that's needed for leadership and for managing your group, it's discernment. There are times that it's just tough. Do you allow a post? Do you allow this comment? Do you redirect it? And again, that's all the stuff we're going to be talking about in this lesson. But you need people with good discernment that can help navigate the tension, and there will be tension at times of social media. And so that's really the difference between admins and moderators. Now, how many do you need, and how much time do you need to allocate for this? It depends on the size of your church. It depends on the activity level of the group. But I honestly think it's going to be less than you anticipate. Really, I've been impressed with most people on church groups that they behave appropriately. Now, I am part of some groups with different pastors and leadership teams and churches on Facebook. And just recently I left a group because of the conflict within the group. And I'll just share this because it's a good illustration for us that what we don't want to do. They were allowing kind of theological debate, and it went against the group rules, but they allowed some people to do it, and they attacked some people for doing it and removed them. And it just got into okay, why do you allow some people to do this and not everybody, and taking sides? And I'm just like, that's not a group I want to be a part of. I have enough drama in life as it is. You don't need more drama. And that I share that because of the simple reason. That's how people will approach your church group. If they see it as just another place that's full of drama, that's full of people arguing and debating, they're going to tune out. They're going to leave the group. They're not going to participate. That's why it's so important to set the culture, to set the tone, to have good admins, to have good moderators. You need people that can be fair in how they handle issues as they come up. So let's talk about now how we start really getting people involved and how we start managing the conversation once they are involved. I think it's really important that you welcome new members. And so what do I mean by this? We've already discussed that when people, the way the Facebook algorithm works, when people join your group, it's really important that they get connected and posting and commenting quickly. When they do that, Facebook recognizes it and shows that this group is an important part of their social media feed, and will start showing more and more content from the group. And so for this reason, maybe you've joined a group before on Facebook and you saw a welcome post. Hey, welcome to the group. And you have a whole list of names. Well, Facebook will help you create those welcome emails. When you go to the members tab, which is at the top of the screen on your Facebook group, you'll see the people who have joined in the last week. And it has below it, create a welcome post. You click on that, and it allows you to create a welcome post. And what this does, it tags all the new members to your group from the past week. And then that way it'll pop up in their notifications. You've been tagged in this post, and you want to do a post that says, hey, welcome to this group. We're so glad you've joined us. Here are some of our basic rules. Here's what we hope this group accomplishes. Again, this is all about the culture and the tone of the group. You share those things, and then you invite them to post or to comment something in return. So, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your family. Tell us what your favorite Bible verse. Tell us, it could be as simple as tell us your favorite ice cream flavor. But the purpose of this is to get them to comment in your group. And it's even better if they do create a post in your group. And the reason why, again, is it's showing Facebook that this is an important group for that person. And so once that's really a great way to get people connected, to get people involved, to share a little bit more about the group rules and the purpose of the group is through welcome email. And so this would be something you could add to your calendar on every Monday, for instance, just to do a welcome post, and it catches everybody that's joined in the past week. And so every Monday, hear the new people in the group. Hey, everybody, welcome, and tell them you're glad they're here. And again, you're creating community. You're bringing people into this community, and you're explaining how it functions and what's expected. And again, this helps when we start having to manage the conversation. And I've shared a little bit, but again, if you create a group for your entire church, which I feel is very important, I feel every church needs a Facebook group for their membership, for the people, their attendees. It's really, you want people to, you don't want it just to be an informational group where people from the church post, here's what's coming up, here, we need your help, we need you to, we want people to interact with each other. And so to do that, that means that we release a little bit of control, because we aren't in control of what's popping up on the page. Other people are posting. And so there will inevitably be times when people post stuff that maybe pushes against those guardrails that we talked about. So what happens when someone makes a hateful comment? What happens when someone posts a prayer request that's more gossip than prayer? What happens when somebody posts a conspiracy theory? We've seen a lot of those online, and I've seen, if you're a leader in the church, you've probably seen people in your church post things that you know are just way out there, and you're like, hey, that doesn't line up with what we believe. What about political posts? Do you allow political posts or not allow political posts? And my preference on that is, hey, You've got people in your church that are both Democrat and Republican and independent and libertarian and everything else. And hey, Jesus came to reach everybody. So you don't want to shut down and run off half, a large percentage of people in your church just because you take a political side. So you can definitely talk about religious issues, moral issues, but just political issues can be very sticky. So how do you handle posts like that, whether it's a hateful comment, whether it's conspiracy theory? We few options, and we'll kind of start and where I would recommend, and we'll kind of work our way down to some bigger strategies, so to speak. The first option is to redirect the conversation, redirect the post with a comment from an admin or a moderator. And so what you mean by this is, hey, I appreciate you asking this question. This is pushing the limits a little bit. Here's what we ask. If you comment on this post, please keep it civil. Please be kind. Please, and you can even put a warning. Hey, if this thing starts going sideways, if we start seeing unhealthy debate, if we start seeing conflict, we will shut down comments or we will delete this post. And so what you do right from the beginning, you're acknowledging that this post is not maybe what you intended for the group, and you're going to let people kind of self-police it and say, okay, we encourage healthy debate, kind debate, helpful debate, but if it starts getting heated, if it starts getting personal, if it starts going against the group rules that we have set in place, we'll shut this down, we'll comment it. So that's a way to be proactive when someone posts something that may not be a clear-cut violation of the rules, but you're afraid it's going to go that way. And so you can redirect the conversation with a comment. The second option is to jump in and close the comments. And so you could put a comment up and just say, hey, we've decided to close comments on this post, but we're going to leave it up. I think it's good to over communicate and say, hey, we appreciate this post. Again, explain maybe why it's not what you were looking for in the group or why it's not really the tone or the culture, but you just close comments, you leave the post up, but you don't allow anybody else to comment. That's a way to kind of prevent maybe arguments or dissension from starting. I will say, in most groups, when I see this happen, when comments are closed, the person that made the original post will post again and say, why did you do this? Or start trying to keep the conversation going. Some people just like to argue. And so that leads us to option 3. That sometimes you need to delete the post. And when you do this, you can hit to get the options for the post. There's those 3 little dots in the upper right on your computer. You hit those and you can remove the post. And then it says, did this post violate your group rules? Facebook pops up this box. You can select the rules it violates. You can send a personal note to feedback to the person, and it will share with them why their post was removed. And so I encourage, if you remove a post, I think you need to let the person know that it was removed and why it was removed. And it will show up from an admin. It will not show up, it will be from an anonymous admin. It won't be from you as a person. So they won't know if one of your admins sends this, they won't know that you sent it. It'll say an admin has removed this post and here's the reason why. And so I encourage, there are times where this needs to be done. Absolutely. There are times when people post something and this is when something could be harmful, when it's pure gossip, when it's slander, when it's hateful, whatever reason, when it goes against your group rules, you simply cannot be afraid to go ahead and delete it and let them know why. There are times when people's accounts get hacked. And so I've seen before on Facebook pornographic, posts from people that I know would never do that. And what happened? Their account got hacked, whatever, there are times you need to remove posts quickly. So this is how you can do that, just to remove the post. So that's your option number 3. There's one final option, and this is an important one, but this is option 4 is to remove, block, or mute the member. And so let me explain the differences in this and why you would use each one. This is kind of a last resort, especially in a church group. You don't want to make it common practice to start removing people. If your group is very large, and I'm talking, thousands of people, you don't know the people in your group, then you may have some people simply join the group to be trolls, just to post, just to create arguments. You may have people join the group to try to sell something. You may have people who, again, hackers that are trying to get in the group. So there are legitimate times you need to do this. But if it's someone if it's someone you go to church with, I would caution you to not do this. I would caution you to back up and do the other steps first, to close the comments or to delete the post, to send a message to the person and say, hey, this is what we want this group to be. Relationships are so important. And if you block or remove a person from a group, there's a good chance feelings are going to be hurt. It could really lead to a person leaving the church. And so for this option, I would say before you do this, you need to get leadership support from your church. It needs to be really a church discipline, a decision more than anything else. And so let's talk about this. If you go to the members page on your group, with each member, if you click again the kind of three little dots, you'll bring up a menu that says block member, make an admin, make a moderator, mute member, turn on post approval, or remove member. Let's kind of talk about these in order that they appear. The block member. If you block someone, what in essence you're doing, you are blocking them from being a part of the group, and they will not even be able to see that the group exists. And so it's a full blown. You are blocking them from this group. They cannot join again. They cannot see the post. They cannot even see any information about the group. It's a total block. So that's the most extreme. We've already talked about the admin and moderator roles. So the next option down is to mute the member. This is an interesting option. When you mute a member, it will say for how long. And what you can do is you can mute a person and just say, hey, we don't want this person to be able to comment or post for the next day, for the next 24 hours, for the next week, for the next month. What you're doing, and sometimes I've seen this happen when issues get out of hand and tempers flare, you're just muting that person and giving them time to calm down. And this may be, and again, since we're talking church groups, I would say this is a time, if you mute somebody, that someone from your leadership team contacts them, talks with them, counsels them, and explains kind of the group rules and say, okay, we just wanted to kind of put the brakes on for a minute. We wanted a kind of a cool down process. And so they can still see the post in the group. They just can't comment or post. And so that's what a mute member is. You can also turn on post approval by member. And so if you have a person in your group that continues to post inappropriate things, just go and turn on post approval. And what this means is that an admin or a moderator will have to approve their post before it shows up publicly, so to the rest of the group. And I think this is a good way to do it if you have someone, and let's be honest, in all of our churches, we have some people who post things that they shouldn't. And maybe they just don't understand how social media works. Maybe there's some learning disabilities there. I've run into a lot of different problems with things like this, where people just post sometimes just to get attention, or post as a cry for help, or there's just lots of complicated things that could happen here. Maybe you just say, okay, this person, we don't really fully trust that they're going to be able to make the best decisions about what should be posted in this group. So we're going to turn on post approval just for them. And so that's a good option sometimes. And so if you have a few people in your church and again, they don't realize that you're doing this to them and no one else, but it's kind of an extra check and balance here to make sure that person has a little bit of, an extra set of eyes on their post before they go public. And then the final is to remove the member. This is not quite it's a little different from block in that the person is removed from the group. They don't get a notification. You just remove them from the group, but they can rejoin at a later time. and so they can still see that the group exists. And so for most church groups, I don't know that this, I'm not really sure of where I would use this. Because most of the times, if I'm removing somebody from the group, it's going to be a permanent removal. And so for that reason, I would probably tend to, if you get to the point where it's significant enough where you're going to take someone out of the group, it's probably going to be a block and not a removal. And because you don't want them turning right around and joining again. And so that really is kind of, again, let me go back through these four options and think about this. The first option is you redirect the conversation with a comment. The second option, you close the comments. The third option, you delete the post and you send the reason why it violates your group rules. The fourth is when you remove, block, or mute the member. And so I hope this helps a little bit. That's really the majority of what you will do. Now, I will mention Facebook is, again, this is tough doing any type of an online course about Facebook because of the rapid change in Facebook. They're rolling out new features constantly. They are rolling out a new feature now called Admin Assist. And some of the larger groups have this. And what this does, I'll kind of read there's four things that you can do with this. One, you can limit who participates in the group by automatically declining incoming posts from certain users. So you can say, if a new user does not have a profile picture, if they're new to the group, we're not going to let them post right away. We want to make sure they're a real person first. You can limit promotional content by declining posts that include links, or that include certain keywords. So if anybody puts a link in your post, then you're going to automatically decline it and go to a post approval process because you don't want people posting links. Or you could add certain keywords into this and say, if it talks about whatever it is, and maybe it's the multi-level marketing, maybe it's politics, whatever it is, you can put certain keywords in there. It's going to automatically kind of hold on to those posts before they go public. You can remove posts that are reported a certain number of times. So if people in your group start reporting a post saying it goes against the group rules, or it goes against the Facebook's kind of community code that they have, then automatically, if a moderator or an admin is not available, it's going to remove that post for you and let you review it. The other thing, it will automatically share feedback with people whose posts don't meet the criteria you set, and it'll allow them to resubmit their post so they will be approved. And so, again, this is not out to everyone yet, but it's coming. And so Facebook realizes they have some issues with moderating, especially in large groups full of diverse people. And so we've seen this over the last year. So they're giving you some more tools to be able to add criteria, to add keywords. You can use this Admin Assist to mute or block people who have, and so it will go back and actually mute or even remove things they have posted over the last few days. And so this is just another tool that we can use to help control conversations. Another thing I will mention, you can set up something called moderation alerts. And so what a moderation alert is, you'll be notified when a post kind of needs your attention. And there's two kinds of moderation alerts. One is a keyword alert. Again, you can put in some certain keywords. So if anyone mentions any of these words, a moderator, your admins, you're going to get a notification, hey, check this post out. Here's an alert. You need to know about this post. So that's one way. So whatever it is, and maybe there's an issue going on in your church and you just want to stay on top of it and communicate, and whether it's a crisis, whether it's a current political event, whether whatever issue it is, you put in those keywords and it's going to trigger a notification anytime someone makes a post about that. The second type of moderation alert is an engagement alert. This lets you know when when a post is getting a lot of comments, when a reply, or you could have an alert set up. Hey, if someone does an angry, emoji response, you can actually do the responses on the post, and you can do the haha or the the smiley face, or the different responses that Facebook has. When you hit the like button, you hover over it. If someone does the angry emoji, man, you want to know if someone's angry about something. It'll actually send you an alert and say, okay, hey, here's someone. So you can set up moderation alerts based on the number of comments, based on the type of response. You've got a lot of freedom and flexibility here to set up alerts. So I would encourage you to do this. Just again, especially if you have a large number of posts, it's just another way to stay on top of this. And so moderation alerts are important. So, and I will say, when you do a moderation alerts, the criteria, if you say, hey, I want to be alerted if a post gets 20 comments, that's got to be within an hour time period. So, over a 1 hour period, if it gets 20 comments, you're going to get alerted. If it gets 20 comments over 2 weeks, you're not going to get alerted. So that's just how that works. So finally, I just, hopefully this has been helpful. I do want to say, we've talked a lot about kind of managing conversations. It's also important that we keep the conversations going. In my other course, the Facebook posting strategy course, I talk about how we do three things: how we create conversations, how we build relationships, and how we challenge people to take their next steps. And so to keep the conversation going, sometimes we need to do some things to do this. We need to create those conversations. How do we do that? One, I want to challenge you to consistently mention your Facebook group and your church communication. So if you have a bulletin, mention it there. If you pastors talking in the pulpit, say, hey, on our Facebook group this week, I want you to be posting this, to encourage people, to invite people into a conversation. It really works well. So that's a great way to do that. And mention it often, invite people to post. And then when people post, this is important, I encourage you to comment or interact on it. And so if someone posts this and they spend some time and write out a great devotional or a great thought or what they're learning, and nobody comments, they're going to be, the way social media works, right? Let's just be honest. We want to know people care about what we post. If we took the time to write something out, it's some validation that people actually care, that people are actually reading, that people are actually listening. Then I encourage you to comment. And so when people post, comment, interact, encourage, exhort. This is what the one another's of Scripture can be played out online. This is how we do discipleship from a distance using online ministry. And so I really encourage you to keep the conversation going. You can do this, again, by getting your leaders to keep posting. I would encourage everyone in your leadership, everyone on your staff, to post at least one time a week. At least. And if you have that going on, what it does, it just keeps all of your leaders, right, connected to the people in the church. And so, especially in a church-wide group, this is a way you can keep this conversation going. So, a lot of information today, lots of things here. Hope it was helpful. Use it, put it into practice. And the biggest thing, and I haven't mentioned this, but you're going to need to pray. Because there are going to be times that you're going to have to make some tough decisions. There are going to be times when you're not really sure the best step to take. There are going to be times when you have to have some difficult conversations. You need to be prayed up. You need to have some good, godly discernment on how to handle these issues. But by knowing this in advance, by having a plan, by having this in place before you start, right? By having your group rules set up, by having the culture, the tone of the group set up, then when problems do arise, you'll know how to handle them. So thanks again for today. We'll come back next week with some more lessons on the advanced features in Facebook groups. And we're talking things about, we're talking the messenger rooms, we're talking Facebook Live, all sorts of interesting things that we can do using Facebook groups. So thanks again for today, and let's keep learning together.